Hello, and welcome to today's Builder of Choice Insights. I'm so excited that you're here with us today. I have a great lineup set up for today. We are going to be talking about the magic of builder and trade partner relationships and how they can benefit both sides of the fence. I'm so excited to have Ben Minks here from Capstone Homes and Kenny Siggs from Siggs A. They both have great experience in both home building and in the trades. So I welcome both of them to join me today and share a little bit about their perspective in this relationship. So welcome, you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Emma.
Thanks
Thanks,
for
Emma.
being here. Yeah. Before we get started, I always like to have my guests share a little bit about themselves. So Ben, will you start off and share a little bit about your journey and how you came into home building and your time in the trades?
Yeah, okay. I'm Ben Minks. I'm now a home builder here in the Twin Cities. Mostly we build a little bit in western Wisconsin and in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, about 500 homes a year operation here. But I started in the trades at 18. My uncles were drywall contractors, and so I went to work for them for my summer job after high school. And it kind of stuck, and I learned a little bit from those guys for a couple of years, and then decided at age 20 I was ready to start my own drywall business. Probably wasn't really ready, but that's how things go in this industry sometimes. But started hiring guys and growing a business, and then worked for builders, worked for home builders and different types of contractors, commercial, and really got to understand what the guys in the trades thought were important, because it was important to me. A little bit later, a few years later, I got married, built a house, and that turned into a slow transition from drywall contractor to home builder. But now I'm totally into home building and totally out of drywall. But it was a great experience because I really learned what this business looks like from their perspective.
Yeah, and I love that, Ben, because I know you guys have a very strong heart for your trade partners, and it's very evident in the way you do business. Kenny, you have an interesting story too, because you grew up in the trades, you did home building, and ended up back in the trades. So could you share a little bit about your story?
I did, yeah. So thanks for having me, Emma. You definitely summed it up. I went full circle here. Started off growing up in a family owned and operated air conditioning company here in Southwest Florida. And if anybody has ever been to Southwest Florida, we definitely need air conditioning. So it's kind of a big deal down here. Don't do a lot of heating, just air conditioning. So grew up in that, just comfortable on job sites, following my dad around as a helper as a kid. Not real sure that he understood what child labor law was or if that was a thing back then. But got started early, and at the time, being a small guy, I was a small kid. I was up in the attics. I was crawling around. I learned pretty quick that I didn't want to do that long term because it's hot. And so went to school, got an education, and figured out I really liked the business side of things. So got out of school, got into general construction, did high rise development, then went full circle back to home building, and just really loved it. I've done everything from a one-off, very high-end luxury home to thousands of production units a year as part of a public national home builder. So kind of a big variety there, and eventually decided that honestly the deciding factor was my parents were in their late 70s at the time. We decided they were trying to sell the business. My wife and I kind of looked at each other and said, you know what, we should keep it in the family. Decided to take over Siggs Air Conditioning, and we are the third generation owner operators of the family business now. So uh, we see all kinds of different things, from production home building to custom home building to service and maintenance, and we handle it all.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, before we got on today, we had a really great conversation. I want to start with you, Ben. I know when you very first started your organization, and I love your story, and I'm going to share a little bit what I remember, and you can clarify, but I remember you told me you built your home for you and your wife when you first got married, and you said, don't really unpack because we're going to sell this one and build another one. Is that kind of how that went?
Yeah. I actually, at that point I was doing a lot of drywall, but I really enjoyed this process of the home and, figuring out a budget and how to, what's going to go in this house and how do I work with all these different trades. I just liked working with guys that work hard because I worked hard. That was my thing. And, at the end, I totaled up what I had into the house, and a couple of realtors told me what they thought it was worth. And I told my wife, don't even bother putting things on the wall. We're just going to sell this thing. And, she thought we were moving in for 30 years, and, no, that wasn't the case. So we moved, and we sold it, and we moved, and we built another house. And that kind of set off a little chain reaction of others things. A few friends asked us to build a home for them, and the next thing you know, we're building multiple homes.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I would imagine, because I know one of the things that I hear a lot of times builders are talking about is how challenging it is to get to work with trade partners sometimes and to find good trade partners. And it sounds like from the get-go, you already had a good feel for that. Can you share a little bit about how you set your organization up so that you did have a good feel for that? And what were some of the things that you were focused on as you were building your home building business and working with trade partners?
Yeah. Well, if you hung 120 sheets of rock every day and you were the guy in charge, you were cutting and lifting and carrying all those sheets all day long, you had a sense for what your body felt like at the end of the day, and you were shot every single day. And so, I guess I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for these guys that work that hard because, if you haven't done it, nobody really understands. People that go to work in clean clothes and they come home in clean clothes, they don't understand what those guys go through. I mean, they cut their hands up, they get banged up. It's so much, you burn so many calories, you're wearing out your knees and your shoulders. It's just really, really tough. So if it's that hard of work and now you have drama about how to collect your money, or you're running a crew out to a site and the job's not ready that day. Now what are you supposed to do? You've got these guys, they're on the clock, and you've got nothing productive to do with them. So, I think, we worked for a few home builders that were poorly run, poorly organized, and we worked for some home builders that were very, very organized. And we made more money. Of course, we made more money on the other one, the good ones, even if we've charged them a little bit cheaper rate to do that kind of work. So I just remembered all those things. And as I started a home building business, I thought I'm going to make this really, really good for those guys because I identified with them. I was one of them. I was rocking my own houses for the first several years of home building. So just having jobs ready, having no drama, easy work that was, not a pain in the butt to do certain parts of the house that didn't add much value. I don't know, it just kind of came second nature to me, and having volume or having just the concept of an even flow of work. If I'm a drywall contractor and I'm working for a builder who has 5 homes a week for me, I can staff for that 5 homes a week. But if he has one week, 10 the next, 2 the next, 8 the next, I've got to staff at the highest level to handle the highest volume of work. Well, but then I'm not utilizing my guys when it's low
Right.
tide. So, I tried to build those things into how we operate now at Capstone, and our guys really appreciate it. So, I don't
Yeah.
know.
It looks like we might have lost Kenny, so I'm going to expand with this with another question, and he should be joining us back here in another second or so. But I want to ask too about how is that spread throughout the culture of your organization? Is that because it's one thing for you to have that perspective. How do you bleed that into the organization so that everybody understands why it's important and how to operate in a way that is kind and respectful and profitable for both you and your trade partners?
Yeah. Well, one, we have hired some guys. Some of our superintendents did come from trades. It's less common these days. I think 20 years ago it was very common. Guys from the trades would come in and be job superintendents. Now it's a little different. Their guys are coming from college and they want to do this. But I think going back to culture, you talk about core values of your company. Our core values are trust, humility, and excellence. And, yesterday we just onboarded a new purchasing guy for our South Dakota division. And I spent an hour with him just talking about the culture and our approach to these relationships with the trades. Okay. Yes, his job is to go buy the labor and material for the price that we need to sell these homes profitably in that city. But the foundation of those deals that you're going to make, the foundation of those is a relationship built on trust. So, first of all, we're never going to lie to somebody. We're never going to deceive them. We're never going to manipulate somebody. We're not going to use threat. Anything that reduces fear is good for that relationship. And the contractor has fear. They have fear. Are they going to get paid? Are they really going to do what they say they're going to do? Are these jobs going to be ready? Everywhere there's fear, that contractor has to build in margin. They're going to price that fear. And so as much confidence that I can build into that contractor, he can actually bid tighter and tighter because he doesn't have to build fluff into his numbers with me. And then I have to produce that. I have to prove it over time that our jobs are ready. We do have an even flow of work for them, that their checks just show up. They don't have to bill us. They don't have to call us. They don't have to chase us down. I used to have to find guys at the VFW to pay me for drywall jobs and hope the check didn't bounce. It's a little nuts out there, but that's really it. You've got to build a relationship of trust. And I think the humility is a big part of that too. These guys, they want to be heard. They want to be listened to. We don't send out a price when times get tough and, we have to discount houses to sell them. We don't send a form letter to all the trades that says, drop your price 10% if you want to keep working. We will call them in and we will explain the market conditions and we'll ask them, can you help? But the conversation is usually around, guys, can we use a different kind of water heater? Can we use is there different equipment available? Do you have any ideas? What are we doing as a contractor that's costing you money that doesn't contribute to the value of that house? So when you get to that conversation, and you have to sometimes get to that conversation, it's key. We're a value builder. We have to have good numbers, but it's a conversation. It isn't laying down the law and telling them just this is how it is.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
believe.
Ben,
Go
I
ahead. Go
mean,
ahead.
you said a lot of things there that really jumped out to me that make me want to open up a division in Minnesota. But that trust, I love how you reframed that. And everybody talks about trust, and I'm pretty sure everybody has trust on their core values or on their website somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, but actually reframing that into removing fear, I think is great because you nailed it with the fear from a sub. And having grown up and done drywall for so long, I'm sure that's where you got that. But yeah, that's the fear factor is real. It's
Yeah.
every day. Yeah, am I sending this crew out just to have them turn right around and come back because it's not ready? Or am I actually gonna get that check? You can't tell you how many times I've heard, oh, it's at accounting, you'll hear from them, you'll get that. I'm sure you've heard the same thing. Having that reliability, you nailed it. Those are the builders that we can give the best price to. It's counterintuitive sometimes because so many builders I see try to beat up the trades, and I've heard that phrase quite a bit. They got to beat them up, beat up their price, got to beat them up. And it's counterintuitive because I can tell you that we price that in and it's not fun. And if you're that builder that's focus and mentality has got to beat them up, you're last on the list to get
Mhm.
service and to get the best crews and to get
Yeah.
the best price. And it's really unfortunate because it should be a relationship.
Yeah.
And you nailed that. You've got to have that relationship, that foundation to work from, because then you can rely on your experts and you can get people in a room, particularly on the air conditioning side. One thing I noticed with a lot of builds and with a lot of designers, uh, the equipment location is rarely thought about. I can't tell you how many houses we get to. They're like, hey, we're ready for you. And I'm like, okay, well, are you sure? And we get there, and sure enough, it's already framed and everything. And that's the first time they're engaging with us. And we get there, and I'm like, okay, well, where did you plan on having the air handler? And they kind of look at me like, oh boy. And now we have to figure out where to put this, 5 foot long piece of equipment in a house that wasn't designed for it. Or outside, where to put the condensing unit when the unit itself is 36 by 36. So that 36-inch pad you poured isn't enough. And just having those conversations ahead of time, the builders we have the most success with, and where I see builders successful in making a lot of money and building a lot of houses with quality, are having those conversations with their experts that they can rely on. That's that relationship. It's key to me, and those are the people we like to build with. Those are
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. No, two things you said there, not just grinding them on the price is, I want to look to how can I grow their productivity? Okay. You got 10 guys on your crew or 5 guys on your crew. I want to show these guys they can get the most billable work done in my jobs for, with the least amount of guys. They can be the most productive. So kind of the other way around. But, and then on the product design, when you're coming up with new stuff, we're having to design a couple of new plans every year. We'll bring the HVAC guys, we'll bring the framing contractor, we'll build the plumbers in and say, okay, guys, where are we going to design a duct chase, or where are we going to have, with the floor trusses, so we get it right. And then when we frame that first house, we'll have we call it a frame walk, product walk with those, and we'll invite those heating guys right there. And everybody's there, and we'll make a few adjustments. We'll take a few pictures, and the drafters are there. We'll just get it done. So, and they feel like they're part of our team when they're contributing to that stuff. It builds a lot. It's continuing to build that trust.
That's very true. And viewing your trade partners as part of your team is critical. That's something that I think a lot of builders miss. And I tried to have that mentality. I think I had it, a little bit different perspective having grown up in a trade. when I was in high volume production home building, one of the big things I always told my team was view it like a paycheck. It's not an invoice. It's not a bill. It's a paycheck. So if you're figuring out how to not pay that on time or you didn't get it approved, consider the fact that you're going to get paid on Friday. How would you feel if somebody inside the company just didn't get around to approving your paycheck? You'd be pretty upset, right? And so having that mentality shift of we need to get to where you're treating that with the same value that you expect in return as an employee. And a lot of times that gets missed, but so often, I hear, horror stories from builders, and I think some of the big publics can be notorious for this, unfortunately, where they'll just say, okay, well, you know what, your new payment terms are 45 days. So then you go 2 weeks without a check because you went from 30 to 45. That's tough. That's tough to manage. I know for our business in particular, I pay all of my guys every Friday. I pay all of our suppliers every Friday. So, I did payroll before we got on the call here. And yeah, that goes out every Friday. Whether I get paid from our builders or not, it goes out because we're focused on taking care of those people and making sure that they're okay. So we really appreciate when builders view us that way as well and can take care of us. And that relationship matters. It's important.
Yeah, the quick pay, we'll do that. Anything that's signed off by Tuesday, they will have a check on Friday every week. So if the superintendent says that work is done, everybody across the board has the money. And I've had accountants tell me, hey, why don't you stretch these terms out? And cash is a big deal to builders too. But, the value that I get for paying these people right away, they put my jobs first. Obviously there was a big immigration push here in the Twin Cities, immigration enforcement. And there was a lot of fear for a while. And, we have large Hispanic population in the trades in the Twin Cities. A lot of them didn't want to come to work. And some of these big contractors were down. We heard like 35% of their guys, either they just didn't want to come to work or some of them were getting picked up. Well, our work got done during that time. Other builders' jobs waited. We got done. And I think it's because you have to be the builder of choice for these guys, and those relationships, sometimes you think maybe it doesn't matter. Well, when a crisis happens, it really matters.
It sure does.
That relationship matters.
Ben, you had some really great questions you were asking Kenny when we were talking, and some of them were, what are the things that you expect as a trade partner from a home builder? And I think we've covered some of those, but one of the things I really appreciated, I wrote down, was that Kenny talked about solving problems, steady work, steady pay, and ultimately respect. Can the two of you talk a little bit about those things? That you've talked a little bit about steady pay, steady work, but talk a little bit about solving problems. I know, Ben, you talked about how you do bring them in to solve problems. And I know, Kenny, that was something that you mentioned was really important, that you felt like, particularly with you said you appreciated working for your regional and local home builders because they respected your expertise. So I'd love to have a little conversation about that piece and what that looks like, partnering with your trade partners and home builders, because one of the things I heard you have mentioned several times, Ben, is value. And I think value is important no matter where you are, whether you're entry level or luxury custom. Value is important because what value is, it creates what somebody's willing to pay for your product. That's the cost plus the value that you see. And we want to maximize the value to our customers so that as a home builder, you're rewarded for the work that you do, as for the trades. We want to make sure that they're being rewarded for the work they do because they're creating value for you as well. So I think a little conversation about that is very helpful for people to understand those pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Kenny. I guess, you kind of started talking about what was most important for you in a relationship with a builder.
For
What,
sure.
short
I-
of just being the builder that pays the most money in the market, what are the things that the builders can do to, make you want to put them at the top of the list?
Great question. There's quite a few, and there's quite a few that don't just pertain to money. Sure, I would love every new construction home that we do to be $100,000 HVAC system, but that's just not realistic, right? It's not in the cards. Probably off by a factor of 10 there. But the real needle movers for us on how we prioritize are simple. It's just what you would think with your own team. It's communication. It's effective communication. It's actually doing what you say and being reliable. So one of the biggest turnoffs for us with a builder is, we spend a lot of time prepping before we go to a job site, particularly for a rough. For an HVAC rough, we're stacking all of our flex duct, all of our duct board, all of our cans, all of our materials. Takes a while to get all that together, get it all organized with all the counts, have it teed up, load it onto a truck, and get it delivered to the job site. So if we do that, and I've got a crew on the way there, and it's not ready, that is such a huge problem for us. It's not just the fact that it's not ready. Oh, we'll give you $100 trip charge. That
Mhm.
doesn't cover that at all. Trip charge to me should only be a red flag that's used almost like a metric that you could see just to visualize when you have a problem, because there's no amount in a trip charge that would be worth it. Ben, you mentioned earlier, you've got 5, 10 people headed to a job site. What do? They're on the clock. They're expecting to get paid that day. Um, how do you tell 10 people, hey, by the way, sorry, you don't get paid. Have fun at home. That's just not right. So having the job ready is great, particularly because having to go back, nobody wants to do the same thing over and over and over. We had a builder recently that we asked the question, particularly when we do a trim, we always like to wait until there's actually power there, because for us to show up with equipment and there to be no power doesn't really do us any good. We can't turn it on. We can't actually connect everything. We can't test it. So we need power. And the builder was telling us, yep, got power. We said, okay, great. This particular house is about an hour from our shop, and we get there. And yes, the main meter is set, but there are no breakers in the panel. So there's effectively no power. And we got to do that one again. So just being ready is a huge differentiator across builders, and understanding what ready means. What I've found, and even when I was, as a home builder, and I'm sure you see this, Ben, but across your team, you've probably got people that have different expertise. Somebody that is an expert framer, but may not know anything about mechanicals. Somebody that's a mechanical guy, but may not know anything about cabinets. And you've got to understand that within your team and set yourself up where you've got consistently across your team, so that as a sub, I know that when Ben's company says it's ready, it doesn't matter which super it is, it's ready, and we're here to go. Obviously, the other stuff, paying is great. Getting paid is awesome. We're all here to get paid, so um, that's incredibly important. And just not having to worry about chasing it, not chasing money, not chasing jobs, being that proactive communication and accurate communication. That's the key. That's the differentiators for us that make us, that those builders that do that get to the top of our list every time.
Yeah, that's good.
So Ben, let me turn that around on you.
Yeah.
So as you look at it, if you're evaluating, let's say you get 10 bids on a new house that you put out there, what are the differentiators? Obviously, price is very important, but what are some things that, if I'm a new sub trying to get in with you,
Mhm.
What are some things that would make me stand out that would make you say, yes, let's give them a couple starts. Let's do that.
Um, yeah, we talk about this a lot. We meet with these guys, and we want to make sure that there's some alignment, even on our core values, to be in part of our company. Is there trust with these people? Is there humility? Is there excellence with these guys? How are they going to be? How are they going to be to have a relationship with these people? Do they value the things we value? Um, do they value having lots of volume? It might be we're working with a company that's really, really into high-end custom work, right? But they're not really tooled for doing volume the way we do it. We'll ask them lots and lots of questions. What's your edge? What's special about your business? We want to work with people that are good communicators. Same thing. People that they're easy to get a hold of. They're not elusive. They're straight talkers. They don't spin. Tell you kind of the truth, but it's a little bit a spin. Um, like we want to make it okay. You can tell me you failed. You can tell me you blew it. But don't spin me some story that makes the blame not be on you. Just, we can live through a failure or two if you're a straight talker. So we want relationships. We want to be able to trust them. We want to know that they've got a quality. We want to know that they've got a really good quality control system within their own company. We don't want our superintendents to be the only quality control that they have. Can they keep up? How much volume can they handle? But really, it's going to start back with the relationship. The price, yeah, we're going to have to. We're selling a value product. We're going to need competitive pricing, but
Sure.
I think it really comes back to the relationship and their ability. Are they a really good operator? Are they a good business person? Some of these guys are great trades and not the best business people. They come and tell
That's for
us
sure.
they're losing money. Well, what does losing money mean? Maybe it means they're out of money in their bank account currently. Um,
I'll tell you
so
what, I had a painter at one point that he honestly was the single greatest painter I have ever worked with. And paint's one of those categories. I don't know how anybody makes any money in it,
yeah,
but he was the greatest painter I have ever worked with from a quality and a field perspective.
yeah,
He was also correspondingly one of the worst businessmen I have ever dealt with. He
yeah,
had no idea if he got paid on a house. It
yeah.
was insane. And so we took the time because his quality was so good. We took the time to help him. And I had a lady in my office that she would almost invoice for him, be like, "Hey, this house you did this house 2 weeks ago. Where's your invoice?" And kind of remind him and help him along. But that makes me think of something that I think our industry on the whole, construction in general, is not the most sophisticated of industries, right? We're not cutting edge medical, we're not cutting edge software. We're generally lagging in a lot of those categories. And one thing that I'd encourage builders to keep in mind is if as a builder you don't think you're the most sophisticated, your trades are even less sophisticated. I can promise you that. So it's figuring out how to work with those people. And a lot of times, Ben, I love what you said about having the same core values that align where you can work together and you can actually do that and rely on each other. And you may not have the most business savvy person, but they're the best painter in the area. And there's value there. Just how do you work together to get it,
Mhm.
to figure it out?
Yeah, you know, we don't need these guys to be the most tech. I am the worst. I can barely figure out how to get on this call with you guys. So I'm really low tech, and a lot of the trades, you know, a lot of these younger guys are a lot better than me still, but they don't have to be that great at technology, but they gotta be. It's high character and common sense. So much of it, good high character people, they're going to build trust, which means they're going to be able to recruit good people and retain.
Mhm.
They're going to train them. They're going to have good common sense systems for quality control. Those good people are going to have good people working for them, and it's going
Yeah,
to be a good business relationship. I don't want to hire these guys and find new ones 4 houses later. I need to hire somebody, and I can pencil them in for hundreds and hundreds of homes. And I know it's done. It's an automatic. We need work to cruise down the assembly line without anything blowing it up. So you got to have some people you can work with.
Mhm.
that's right.
And be able to work with them through the ups and downs in the business cycles of the economy too.
That's right. And that's something that we always try to do. Our team, having a builder background, I always talk to our team that, hey, we need to we need to be the easiest trade that these builders have. Like that's our goal. Our goal is to just almost be in the background.
Yep.
And for having one of the more complex categories in a home, that we've got a lot of opportunity to mess it up, to be honest. But we've also got a lot of opportunity to stand out and to be the reliable trade that a builder can, as they're building their budget, as they're building their schedule, they just don't have to think about it. They're like, oh, Siggs is going to handle it. That's okay. We
Mhm.
got it. That's our goal as a trade partner to really just make it easy. I don't want it to be hard. There's so many things throughout the day that are hard. I, I don't need to create hard. It
Yeah.
comes with the world.
Right. Right. The job's hard as it is. Everything that I can make easy, I want to make it easy. We say
That's
the
right.
same thing. We tell a lumber supplier, we want to be your easiest to service account that you have. Um, and
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I mean, one thing that we do internally, we have two things that happen on an almost weekly basis in our group chat of all of our techs. We have the who is in the hottest attic contest where they all have those little temperature guns that they're taking. So that's the proof that it is hard to do air conditioning because
Mhm.
my guys are in these attics that are 140, 148 degrees. We have
uh,
to have a protocol on how they cycle in and out of the attic to avoid heat exhaustion.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
just
Mhm.
crazy. Stuff like that. It's hard. What we
yeah.
do, this industry is hard. So we've got to try to find ways to make it easy. The other thing that is more on the service side, they see who can find the grossest system of the week. Um, and you'd be surprised because all that system is doing in somebody's house is just blowing all that stuff all over the house, and it can get pretty nasty if you don't service them. I can tell you that. So those are the two weird things we do in our chat. But the goal is to just we want to make it easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hard because it's hard to do the job to begin with,
Yeah.
let alone making it hard
Yeah.
is no.
What's interesting, listening to the two of you have a conversation, is that ultimately, at the end of the day, this goes back to the kindergarten theme: treat others like you would want to be treated yourself, the golden rule, because you were both saying the same thing. You were both saying, this is what I expect from my builder. This is what I expect from my trade partner. We want to make the relationship easy. I want good communication. I want people that want to work hard, that have good quality, that have checks and balances, that are working for the same ultimate goal. And so it's interesting to hear two people on two sides of the fence are saying, you guys are saying the same thing, just from a different perspective. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting to kind of put both hats on, and you guys have both been in both sides of the fence, and you both are saying the same thing from where you're sitting. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, another good thing that I think is we've been doing the last several years is the trade council meetings
Mm-hmm.
once a quarter. We've got, kind of a sampling of maybe a dozen different trades, and we'll invite an owner, but really I want the foreman or these mid-level managers there that are actually dealing with the stuff on the jobs. And you talk about humility when you first started doing those, when we first started doing those meetings, you know, our, our construction managers would walk in, they go, okay, well, is there any, is there one or two things that maybe we could do better that help you guys, the jobs go a little smoother? And just a bunch of them just pounced, and some of them had a little edge to them, and there was a little bone to pick with us, and there was a little built up emotion. So, to not fire back with, hey, we're doing the best we can. This is how it is. But to really listen to them and go, okay, hey, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write that down. We'll put our heads together and we'll think about how we might address your concern about X. And then you got to really show them that you listened, and they got to see something actually different in how you operate. But over time, they have seen that, we're willing, we kind of are on our heels in those meetings sometimes as the builder going, yeah, that is kind of a tough thing. And we got to work that out for you. But again, building that relationship, building that trust and working together. And now you've got guys that never spoke up and they're willing to speak up. And some of the angry ones have kind of calmed down.
That's great that you have a forum for that, because it's a lot of times you're not real sure who the right person is to be having that conversation with.
Yeah.
But having that open forum and allowing that, you uncover a lot. You
Yeah.
uncover a lot of issues, and there may be issues that you didn't even know were issues that
Yeah.
come up. You're like, oh, actually, that's really easy for us to change. We just completely didn't even know, and
Totally.
that's very productive.
Yeah.
That's huge, and by having, this is something I tell a lot of our builders and a lot of my team. I've had this conversation many times over the years. It doesn't, you know, Ben, you and I, we could be the bestest of friends, the BFFs forever, whatever. Um, but if our teams in the field can't figure out how to execute together, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter,
Yeah.
because you and I aren't the ones that need to make the magic happen to get the house done. So
Mhm.
that relationship, it is important, but the where the boots are on the ground is where everything has to click, and it's got to work.
Yeah. And I think that comes down to culture too. I think when we lost you there for just a second, the question I asked Ben was, he's very passionate about relationships with trade partners, but that's great that he is, but how do you make that relevant throughout the entire organization and make that part of your culture? And I think like what we're with our conversation, it sounds like both of you, that's part of your culture. Because it sounds like, Kenny, you talk about that with your team and how important it is for them to have relationships with the people they're working with. And I hear Ben saying the same thing. So a lot of it comes down to, like you said, the relationship between the people, the people that are running the business, but making sure that that culture and that idea, that mentality is part of the business and how people operate on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Right. That's right, and you nailed it. That relationship has to go at every level of the organization. It's
Mhm.
not just owner to owner. It's not just field to field. It's also got to be dispatch to scheduler, and it's got to be accounting to accounting, and having all those interactions, and making sure that as an organization, yeah, you've got to align, and good people like good people. And
Hmm.
so, Ben, you were talking about that earlier, where you know that if you've got a good person that you're dealing with, the chances are they're surrounding themselves in their organization also with good people and with culture. And that's what the culture of a business is how far does that percolate through the business, of the actual way that you want to be doing it. I've seen builders that have stuff on the wall or on the website, or any company for that matter, that has stuff out there that you're like, oh, those are nice words, but they're just not reality. So seeing how does that actually function in the business at multiple levels, and that's how you really get stuff done, and how you can really have a true partnership where you're aligned on so many levels that it would almost be hard not to work together.
Yeah.
It'd almost be weird.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
For
that's
the, go ahead. Sorry there to interrupt you
no,
there.
that's just what we try to do. We try to get after that, where I make a point with our builders that, um, they've always got my number, but chances are I'm not the best person to solve the problem that you have right then. And it's probably not going to be the fastest path to getting it solved either. Taylor, my operations manager, she's probably the one you want to talk to. If it's something to do with invoicing, there's always having the right connection and outlining that. One thing that we like to do with builders is provide a sheet that says, hey, here's our organization. If it's this type of item, this is the person. If it's this type of item, this is the person. And assigning an actual name to a function, I've found is really, really helpful, because otherwise my phone rings all day long, and it's not realistic. I know that I have to, my one of my roles as the owner operator, CEO, chief janitor, whichever title I have today, um, my role is to remove obstacles for the team and for our customers, myself included. If I'm the obstacle, I gotta figure out how to get out of the way.
Yeah, that's great. Giving them giving your customers, giving your superintendents, the builders, access to the right people that they can ask the questions, and training them. That's wonderful. I think 25 years ago when I was first starting, I thought this business was just the nuts and bolts of, how do you bid a job or get 3 bids and pick the good guys and good designs. The longer in a larger business, I've got to have layers and managers and all this culture. The more people you're trying to move in a direction, culture and leadership and those things really, really matter. And why you set your culture up, your purpose for doing it. We think we're accountable to God is really our ultimate purpose behind that. But I also say, yeah, it's the right thing to do by God. It's the right thing to do by people. But you can also make a pretty good business case. There's a pretty big business benefit for investing in really good culture, and that translates into really good leadership. Hundreds of relationship. I got hundreds of people making decisions on behalf of my company every single day that I don't get to hear about. They just going to decide, but they're going to make those decisions based on our culture, based on our core values, based on what they know their senior leadership team would have done if they were there making that decision. That is magic. He started by saying magic. Well, that's the magic's in the culture, I think.
Totally agree.
It's beautiful. I love it. Ben, you and I talk about, well, and I know Kenny too, that leadership concept and culture are just so near and dear to my heart. So I love that you brought that up, because it's very important. A lot of times we think that it's, forcing things to happen. But what you just said, your leadership and culture has created an environment where everybody understands what the general purpose of the organization is, and they know how to make decisions based off of that. And you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we've had a good conversation. I know we could talk all day long, because I know this is a really good topic, and it's fun to talk about how we can build houses better, how we can build better relationships. But I'd love for you guys to have a closing statement. What is a key point you want people to take home from this conversation, that they've sat in, they've listened to us at our little coffee shop, because I always tell us we're at a coffee shop and people are eavesdropping in. And let's say, what is the last thing you would want them to hear from our conversations that they could take home and really start doing something with it? So Ben, you want to go first, and I'll finish with Kenny?
Yeah, I think just, start with, pick one of these things, maybe one of the things Kenny mentioned about how do I help make that atmosphere better for my trades. Start with the dry runs, eliminate the dry runs. Just do one or two things and pick at it. Involve your managers. Think about, how do I have a strategy to actually make these guys want to do work for us as a building company. Have a strategy and work at it. It'll pay off in spades.
Excellent. Kenny?
Sure. I totally agree with that. And kind of in line with that, I would say that perfection can be the enemy of progress. And I'd encourage everybody to think about that one thing and really dig into it, and think about how you would want that to be if you were in the other seat. If you were the trade partner, how would you want to have your contract set up? How would you want to have your payment structured? Whichever item you pick on, think about it from both perspectives. The same thing on the trade side. How does this look from a builder perspective? How do I make it easier for the builder that we're working with to know how to schedule with us? If we know that equipment is 2 weeks out, we've got to communicate that to the builder and let them know, hey, it's 2 weeks out. If you call me and tell me you need me there tomorrow, I can't do that because I need a 2-week lead. So just be proactive with that and help that relationship be easy. Just try to keep it easy. Try to clear communication and be that easy partnership that everybody wants to have in their life.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you. And I want to mention too, if anybody wants to pick Kenny's brain, he is part of our team as well. He moonlights for the Shinn Group as well. So during his day job is AC, his night job, I guess, I don't know, is working with us and helping builders as well. So, but the two of you, I want to thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation. I loved watching the two of you go back and forth, a couple little war stories here and there, but at the end, talking about how those situations came to light and how you operate your businesses better, having been on both sides of that fence and understanding how the other team operates. And I really commend you both for working really hard on making sure that you're working as a team with your builder or your trade partner and making a big difference in the industry. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I look forward to talking to you again. And thank you for coming and listening into our conversation, and join us again for our next Builder of Choice Insights. Thanks for watching or listening. Give us a like and leave a comment. And if you thought of somebody, be sure to send them a link so they can listen too. As always, we'd love to hear your feedback. Is there a specific topic or special guest that you want to hear about? Let us know. Did you like what you heard? Then I've got great news for you. You can listen to this episode along with many more at Builder of Choice Insights, where I talk with industry experts on crucial concepts that help builders become the builder of choice. If you don't want to miss this next episode, then be sure to turn on your notifications hit that like button and subscribe.